There are no reptiles or amphibians here, and all land mammals have only been introduced by humans. Despite the fact that it hasn't rained here in nearly 2 million years, it still holds 80% of the world's freshwater reserves. If you plan to spend a lot of time here, you might want to think about taking health precautions like getting your wisdom teeth out or getting an appendectomy beforehand. Antarctica is the coldest and probably the most mysterious continent on the planet. Over the past century, humanity has studied its surface quite well, but we all know that what's most interesting is usually hidden deep beneath. When scientists decided to look under the ice cover of Antarctica, what they saw there surprised not only ordinary people like me but also the researchers themselves. So what has been hidden deep beneath these huge sheets of ice for a long time? Scientists have believed that under the immense thickness of ice there's nothing particularly interesting, at most maybe some small scattered pockets of subglacial groundwater. However, the expectations that researchers had in the 1990s have been exceeded, as it turns out that under the ice of Antarctica there's a whole lake, and it's also quite large, about 5,800 square miles or 15,000 square kilometers, which is about 1.5 times the size of the island of Cyprus. The depth of the reservoir reaches 4,000 feet over 1,200 meters. This is only 145 feet, or 442 meters, less than in the deepest lake on the planet, since this reservoir was discovered near the Russian polar station Vostok. The lake was also called Vostok. This giant pond is hidden under a huge layer of ice with a thickness of 11,886 feet, or 3,623 meters. For this reason, the researchers did not expect to find even the smallest signs of life in such harsh conditions. After all, the area around the lake experiences negative 128.2 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 89 degrees Celsius. Additionally, the lake's nitrogen and oxygen concentrations are 50 times higher than in typical freshwater lakes. The ice pressure is greater than that of Jupiter's moon's icy crusts, and sunlight never reaches the lake's surface. Researchers have discovered a new type of bacteria that has been given the name W123-10. Few organisms living on planet Earth can survive in such a harsh environment, but they still manage to find life in such extreme conditions at the same time. The lake was isolated from the rest of the globe for several million years, which caused the bacteria discovered there to evolve separately from all other living beings on our planet. This is why the DNA of this organism only shares 86 similarities with other living things on planet Earth. Later, researchers found traces of approximately 3,500 species of living organisms in the lake. Although some scientists dispute this figure, the very fact that there are various life forms has led researchers to a very significant hypothesis, which states that there are likely such lakes beneath the ice on Mars and the satellite of Jupiter, Europa. By the way, the Vostok subglacial lake is not the only large lake in Antarctica. Whillans and Ellsworth are two other notable lakes.
According to John Priscu, a professor of polar ecology at the University of Montana, there may be as many as 400 ice lakes in the world.
The Bentley Depression, the deepest continental point on the planet that is not filled with liquid water, is located under the glaciers of Marie Birdland. It is 8,215 feet, 2,540 meters, below sea level. Similar discoveries were made with the help of space sensors that scan the relief of Antarctica in both directions, as it turned out that the ice is distributed throughout the continent. The reason for this heterogeneity is that the former supercontinent of Gondwana lies buried beneath the ice in eastern Antarctica, creating a vast cemetery. There are at least 3 such cratons in East Antarctica. One of them is very similar to the rocks of Australia, the second to those of India, and the third to the seabed. Scientists refer to these remnants as cratons, and they are the stable rocky cores of the continents that have survived hundreds of millions of years of destructive tectonic activity on the Earth. It is possible that these fragments came together a billion years ago when the supercontinent Rodinia formed. The research team used a specialized 2-foot, or 60-inch, drill with hot water to accomplish this. After 63 hours of non-stop use, the scientists were able to reach a depth of 7,060 feet, or about 2,152 meters. Next, they measured the water pressure in the hole. Scientists have not seen such giant holes since the 1970s, so they could not immediately identify the cause of this hole that researchers called wormwood. However, an answer was soon found. It was caused by a cyclone in September 2017 when streams of warm and cold air collided at the South Pole, resulting in the formation of swirling winds reaching a speed of 72 miles per hour, or 117 kilometers per hour. Such powerful turbulence created huge waves up to 52 feet, 16 meters, high, which in turn pushed out large chunks of ice and thereby formed a huge hole. In addition, strong winds brought warm water to the cold Lazarev Sea, in which there are ice masses. As a result, the ice began to melt, which also contributed to the emergence of a hole. Soon, it will grow to 37,000 square miles, which is about 95,829 square kilometers, and will then be about the size of Ireland. A meteorologist and climate modeler at the Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research in Kiel, Germany, believes that the number of cyclones that trigger these holes will only increase in the future. At the same time, given climate change, the refreezing of holes will be much slower, so the ice melt in Antarctica will accelerate. Diana Francis, a specialist in atmospheric climate, believes that we shouldn't be afraid of this. On the contrary, the formation of such holes promotes better circulation between the ocean and the atmosphere, and for Antarctic animals such as penguins or seals, this opens up new food sources. But at the same time, Francis does not deny that the large size of the holes affects the circulation of the ocean and therefore could lead to global climate change. So scientists will continue to observe from space to try to control the state of this ice continent. One of these observations occurred in 2019, and it seems to have inspired some hope. Researchers have noticed a mountain-like geological structure that separates the western and eastern parts of Antarctica. The Ross Glacier, the largest in Antarctica, is safeguarded from the intrusion of warm water by a demarcation line, which prevents massive chunks of ice from breaking away and floating into the ocean. The absence of this boundary would result in a 20% rise in the inflow of Antarctic subglacial water into the ocean, potentially causing a 38-foot or 11.6-meter increase in global sea levels. Nonetheless, in close proximity to this colossal glacier, there is a vulnerable area that undergoes severe melting during the summer months. Consequently, the melting of the entire Antarctic ice sheet seems inevitable, despite its remote location. It is important to note that this continent holds 80% of the world's freshwater reserves. If these reserves were to discharge into the ocean, even cities located far from Antarctica would be at risk of submersion.